The old man's voice echoed through the misty cave. "You've mastered wolf step," he continued calmly, "but you've only mastered the key, not the psyche." Standing before the boy, the old man explained further. "The psyche is the battle key that crushes your foe's morale, like I showed you before." He then gave his next command. "You will cultivate that key by living with wolves." The old man's eyes sharpened as he looked down at him. "You do not know true fear yet." His voice grew heavier. "You can only attain battle key after enduring and overcoming it all." He stared straight at the boy. "Do you understand what I'm saying?" The boy answered firmly, "Yes." The old man nodded slightly. "You've become quite a bit better now, so you'll be able to handle young wolves, hmm?" The boy replied without hesitation, "Yes, sure." Then the old man revealed the real training. "The number of wolves will increase by 1 every day for the next 100 days. The boy's eyes widened in shock. The old man continued coldly, "I won't provide you with food either. You must secure it yourself." His gaze turned even harsher. "Likewise, the wolves will do everything they can to devour you." The boy swallowed as the reality sank in. Looking ahead with tense determination, he muttered, "So either I die or the wolves die." The old man extended his hand and handed the boy a short blade. "Here, take this." The boy stared at it for a moment, then gripped the dagger tightly and pulled it free from its sheath. Moments later, the cave doors creaked open. From the darkness, a wolf slowly stepped inside, its red eyes glowing faintly. The old man's voice echoed from outside. "Go ahead, enter." The boy stood quietly inside the cave, the dagger now secured at his waist. He stared at the wolf approaching him through the mist. That wolf has no hostility. It's docile right now, but his muscles remained tense. "I'm not scared, but I can't relax." Days passed. More wolves began appearing in the cave, their shadows moving silently through the fog as they surrounded him. A drop of water fell from the cave ceiling. The boy watched the wolves carefully as they circled. Today is the 4th day. The starving hound's eyes are blood red. He tightened his grip on the dagger. "My fatigue is more difficult to endure than my hunger." His breathing slowed as he forced himself to stay focused. "Keep it together. I'll become the wolves' food with one misstep." The wolves bared their teeth, saliva dripping from their jaws as they growled, their glowing eyes locked onto him. The boy raised his dagger and glared back with cold determination. "Come at me if you dare." With a ferocious snarl, the pack finally lunged toward him all at once. The wolves finally pounced, but instead of attacking him, the 3 beasts suddenly tore into the weakest wolf among them, ripping into its body as blood sprayed across the cave floor. The boy stood still, dagger in hand, watching the brutal scene unfold as the pack devoured their fallen companion. The 3 of them attacked the weakest wolf at once. A faint crunch echoed as he shifted his footing. Then something changed. Dark energy began rising from his body like smoke, swirling around him as the wolves continued feeding. His eyes sharpened. Is this the battle key he mentioned? A fierce grin spread across his face as excitement surged through his veins. "Let me have some of that." He burst forward in a sudden dash, blade drawn. One wolf instantly reacted and leapt toward him, jaws wide open and fangs dripping. The boy's eyes widened. "Yeah, it's fast!" The wolf slammed into him mid-charge, sending him staggering as its claws tore past his guard. But instead of falling back, the boy roared with wild determination. "Ha!" With a powerful swing, he slashed upward, launching the massive wolf into the air as the battle inside the cave finally erupted. Surrounded by wolves in the fog-filled cave, the boy steadied his breathing as three beasts circled him with glowing red eyes, their claws scraping against the stone floor. Suddenly, one of them lunged. A wolf dropped from above, claws raised to tear him apart. Whoa! These wolves are incredibly fast. The beast came crashing down toward him, but the boy moved first. His fist shot forward with brutal force. Gotcha! The punch slammed into the wolf's face mid-air, sending its massive body crashing violently into the ground. Thwump! Without hesitation, he drove his dagger down, stabbing into the wolf as it struggled beneath him. Blood splattered across his clothes. He looked up at the remaining wolves with wild eyes and a blood-stained grin. "Come get some if you want to die." The two wolves froze for a moment, growling low as they circled cautiously, their red eyes watching him carefully. The boy dropped to one knee, breathing heavily. Whew. Exhaustion weighed on his body, but he forced himself to keep moving. Grabbing the fallen wolf's leg, he began dragging the corpse across the cave floor. The sound of flesh scraping against stone echoed through the darkness as he pulled it aside, preparing himself for the next attack. Blood dripped from the boy's mouth as he forced the blade down, tearing into the wolf's flesh. He trembled, exhausted. His stomach churned violently, but he clenched his teeth and forced himself to continue. His eyes glowed with cold determination. "It smells terrible, but I need to eat to survive." In the dim cave, he tore pieces of meat from the wolf and ate while gripping his dagger, the metallic scent of blood thick in the air. Behind him, red eyes slowly appeared through the fog. More wolves had arrived. They watched him silently as he ate. Days continued to pass inside the cave. The boy observed the pack carefully. Since I kill one wolf every day, the number of wolves always stays at 4. The corpses never lasted long. The dead wolves are eaten by me and the other wolves. Whenever a body fell, the wolves immediately devoured it, their jaws ripping through flesh. Those moments were the only times the boy could lower his guard. The only time I can relax is when the wolves are eating or resting. The endless cycle of fighting, killing, and surviving continued. Standing alone in the mist-filled cave, his body now covered in scars and blood, the boy stared forward with hardened eyes. I've killed roughly 90 wolves. Despite the brutal ordeal, he was still alive. I survived, and my proficiency in wolf step has become impeccable. The countless battles had sharpened his body and instincts. But above all else, my biggest accomplishment is attaining extreme speeds. Like a flash of lightning, he burst forward, his body moving faster than before as he charged directly at another wolf, blade ready to strike. The boy's body blurred as he moved. If I approach the wolves at extreme speeds, they become immobilized from fear. In a flash, his blade cut across a wolf's body before it could even react. The beast growled in pain as it staggered back. Through the mist, 5 wolves stared at him with glowing red eyes. Those 5 wolves are the ones that survived through everything. He studied them carefully. Among them stood a larger, darker wolf, its gaze cold and commanding. Especially that red-eyed wolf. It became the pack leader of the den as soon as it entered. The boy narrowed his eyes. This will only be my win if I kill that extremely fast and deadly wolf. But the leader never attacked first. It always makes its underlings attack first. As if on cue, the wolves suddenly burst forward. The pack charged through the fog, claws tearing across the ground as they rushed toward him. The boy dashed straight into them. "No, you don't!" His blade flashed through the air, slashing across a lunging wolf and knocking it aside. But another wolf instantly leapt high above him, jaws wide open. Before he could fully react, the beast crashed into him, its fangs sinking toward his shoulder. The boy roared through clenched teeth. "Ha!" He twisted his body and slashed upward with all his strength, sending the massive wolf flipping through the air. But the battle was far from over. Another wolf slammed into him immediately after, tackling him to the ground as claws and fangs tore toward him in a brutal frenzy. Chapter 6. The wolf lunged forward with a furious snarl. But the boy struck first. His blade flashed across the beast's head as it roared, blood spraying through the mist. The wolf crashed toward him, fangs snapping. Without hesitation, the boy slammed his foot down on its skull, pinning it to the ground. "Hap!" The wolf snarled back. "Growl!" In the same instant, the boy drove his dagger straight down. The blade sank deep into the wolf's body. He twisted the knife and ripped it free, stepping back as the corpse collapsed at his feet. Two wolves remained, growling cautiously as they faced him across the cave floor. The boy stood silently, breathing slowly, the dagger hanging in his hand. Then something began to change. A powerful aura erupted from his body, rising like smoke around him as his eyes glowed with fierce intensity. The wolves bared their teeth, blood dripping from their jaws as they stared him warily. Inside the boy's mind, a calm thought surfaced. "You were strong." He tightened his grip on the blade. "But I'm stronger." In a flash of motion, he launched himself into the air like a falling blade, descending toward the final wolf with unstoppable speed. With explosive speed, the boy slammed into the two remaining wolves. A thunderous impact shook the cave as both beasts were blasted away in opposite directions, their bodies crashing violently into the ground. Dust and debris filled the air. For a moment, everything went silent. The boy dropped to one knee, gripping his dagger as his chest heaved. Steam rose from his battered body as the corpses of the wolves lay scattered around him. He struggled to lift his head. "Phew, is it over now?" Outside the cave, a frantic voice suddenly echoed through the doors. "So Moon, are you all right? Why are you so quiet?" The old man slammed his fists against the wooden doors. "Answer if you're alive." Inside the cave, the boy slowly forced himself to stand. He muttered under his breath, exhausted. "That damned geezer. He shouldn't have brought in wolves if he's so worried about me." The old man shouted again from outside. "Grandfather, open the door!" With a loud creak, the heavy doors finally swung open. Light poured into the cave as the old man stepped inside. He froze the moment he saw the scene before him, the cave floor covered in the bodies of wolves, and standing in the middle of them, the boy. Tears welled up in the old man's eyes as his voice trembled. "Great work! You did it!" The boy stood silently among the aftermath, his torn clothes hanging from his battered body, while a heavy aura flowed around him like mist. For a moment, he said nothing. Then he answered calmly, "Yes." Later, outside the cave, snow rested quietly on the forest as the boy stepped out beside the old man. The cold air felt strangely peaceful after the brutal battle. A sharp cry suddenly echoed across the sky. "Cree!" The boy looked up and instantly recognized the bird circling above. His tired expression suddenly lit up with excitement. "Ironblood, long time no see. Have you been?" He raised his hand toward the sky and called out eagerly, "Come over here!" The bird swooped down toward him, but just before reaching his hand, it suddenly veered away and flew past him. The boy blinked in confusion. He turned his head, annoyed. "What's wrong with him? It's me. Did you already forget me?" The old man calmly watched the bird fly overhead and gave a simple explanation. "It's probably because of the bloodlust seeping out of you." The boy looked up again as the bird continued gliding through the sky. All he could do was stare. Wow. Then the old man glanced at the boy's battered body and spoke seriously. "Anyway, your wounds are quite severe. We'd better get them treated first." Days later, the quiet mountain cabin sat peacefully under the winter sky while smoke slowly drifted from the chimney. Outside, the old man crouched beside a small fire, carefully tending to a pot as flames crackled beneath it. Steam rose from the kettle as the herbal mixture boiled intensely. After a while, he poured the thick medicine into a bowl and squeezed the last drops from a cloth. Inside the cabin, the boy sat cross-legged on the wooden floor, his entire body wrapped in bandages from head to toe. Sunlight streamed through the window as he waited silently. The old man stepped in and handed him the bowl. "Here, drink this." Without hesitation, the boy grabbed the bowl and gulped it down in one go. After finishing, he wiped his mouth and sighed. Then he spoke casually. You said herbal medicines are all about effort, but I guess this lacked effort since I don't feel much better." The old man's face immediately twisted in disbelief. "Huh? Effort? Goodness me!" He exploded in anger. "I brewed that medicine for you out of pity, and you're saying I lacked effort?" In the next instant, the old man lunged forward with a furious punch. "Brat!" The boy quickly dodged as the fist swung past him. Grinning, he mocked him. "Wow, using your fists instead of effort, I see." The old man landed and crossed his arms angrily. "Is shamelessness all you've learned in that cave?" Insolent brat." The boy's expression finally turned serious. He looked down at the empty bowl beside him and asked quietly, "Anyways, is there some way to get rid of this bloodlust?" Then he added with concern, "It's already been 4 days since I left the cave, but Ironblood is still avoiding me." The old man scoffed and looked down at the boy with a faint smirk. Fool. You think that's such a simple task?" Then he continued calmly, "You went through all that effort to attain it. Why get rid of it? That'd be a waste." Before the boy could react, the old man suddenly moved. In an instant, he dashed forward with terrifying speed, his figure blurring as he appeared right in front of the boy. The boy barely flinched as the old man stopped inches away from his face. For a moment, the two stared at each other in silence. The boy's eyes sharpened, a dangerous aura rising around him. "Huh? Are you picking a fight with me?" A grin slowly spread across his face. "It'll be difficult. I'm quite strong now." Then he laughed wildly. "Ha ha 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 ha!" The old man's face stiffened slightly, a bead of sweat forming on his temple. "Ha! Incredible." I felt fear for a moment there. After a brief pause, he rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Seems like your wolf step is complete now." Then he nodded. "Good. In that case," his eyes sharpened, "now let's get rid of that bloodlust." The boy blinked in confusion. "Huh? You were just saying that it'd be a waste to get rid of it." The old man looked at him with clear disappointment. Did you even learn anything about ki?" The boy blinked in confusion, completely caught off guard. The old man sighed in frustration before raising his voice. "You need to conserve your bloodlust and use it only when you need to." The boy's eyes widened slightly. The old man clicked his tongue in annoyance. What's the point of learning the wolf step when you're this stupid?" Psst. Not long after, the two of them stood before a roaring waterfall deep in the mountains. Water thundered down the rocks, crashing violently into the pool below. The old man pointed forward with his staff. "Cultivate your inner ki here." The boy looked at the freezing water with disbelief. "It's still cold outside. Do I really need to do it under a waterfall?" The old man calmly explained, "If you cultivate the Heart Sutra visualization under the waterfall, your bloodlust will naturally disappear." The boy stared at the falling water for a moment. Then, without another word, he stepped forward. Moments later, his silhouette appeared beneath the crashing waterfall. Water pounded relentlessly over his body as he sat cross-legged, unmoving. With his eyes closed and arms resting calmly, he began to meditate. And under the endless roar of the waterfall, the boy started cultivating his inner ki. Under the roaring waterfall, the boy sat cross-legged on a slick stone as freezing water crashed down on his body without mercy. The force of the current battered his shoulders and head. His teeth clenched as his body trembled violently. Gush, gush. His vision blurred as the cold seeped deep into his bones. From the riverbank, the old man shouted angrily, "Brat, do you want to freeze to death? Snap out of it and concentrate your ki." He shivered uncontrollably, his breath coming out in shaky gasps. Brr. Through the curtain of water, he could barely see the old man's silhouette standing in the distance. The old man's voice rang out again, firm and commanding. "Listen carefully. You have never truly mastered the way of using the Heart Sutra visualization." The waterfall thundered louder as the old man continued instructing him. "But you should have realized how to control the flow of ki by learning wolf step. Don't try to force the ki to move, but let it follow its flow instead." The boy struggled to breathe under the crushing water pressure. The old man raised his voice once more. "Completely entrust yourself to the power of the Heart Sutra visualization. It's more than capable of protecting your body." The freezing water felt like knives cutting through his skin. His body trembled harder. Inside his mind, panic crept in. "It feels like even my bones are freezing, and my head is about to break." His thoughts grew darker. "I'm going to die." Everything went silent for a moment. Then, suddenly, his eyes shot open wide. The boy's eyes widened beneath the crushing waterfall as a strange realization struck him. "What's this? The cold sensation is disappearing." The freezing pain that had been piercing his body moments ago began fading. His mind raced. An illusion created by the Heart Sutra visualization? Water streamed down his face as he steadied his breathing, forcing himself to stay calm despite the roaring current. He slowly lifted his head toward the fallen water. "Then I'll try raising my ki." His body remained seated under the merciless cascade as he attempted to circulate the energy within him. For a moment, it worked. The flow of ki surged through his body like invisible currents wrapping around him. But suddenly, hup! His eyes shot open. The cold came crashing back all at once. His teeth clenched violently as his body trembled uncontrollably. Shit, cold again! His muscles shook as the freezing water stabbed into him again and again. On the riverbank, the old man's face twisted in shock. His grip tightened around his staff. Darn, he made a huge mistake. The old man leaned forward, shouting with urgency, "Fool! Concentrate! Trust in the Heart Sutra visualization!" His voice thundered with warning. "Your father also fell ill to cultivation hysteria while trying to control his bloodlust." Under the crushing waterfall, the boy's body buckled forward. Grrr! His hands slammed against the rock beneath him as he struggled to stay upright. The raging water poured over his back as his body trembled on the brink of collapse. Then his expression hardened. His glowing eyes burned with stubborn determination. "Damn it all! If I die, I die!" Violent currents of energy suddenly burst from his body, twisting around him like wild serpents. From the riverbank, the old man's eyes widened in alarm. "Huh?" Under the crushing waterfall, the boy's body suddenly steadied. Two blazing streams of energy rose beside him like flames as the ki inside his body finally aligned. The raging water no longer shook him. His breathing slowed. His mind cleared. A faint smile appeared on his lips. "Gotcha!" From the riverbank, the old man watched the scene with tense eyes, before finally letting out a deep breath. Phew. The waterfall continued roaring as the boy stepped out of the freezing pool, water dripping from his body. He looked up excitedly toward the old man. "Grandfather, the water doesn't even feel cold anymore." Before he could celebrate, the old man's staff slammed down on his head. "You brat!" "Ouch!" The boy grabbed his head in pain. "Why'd you hit me?" The old man pointed at him furiously, beard shaking with anger. "Why? Didn't I tell you to entrust yourself to the flow of ki?" He raised his staff again and smacked him repeatedly. "I nearly lost my only grandson just now." The boy tried to shield his head, stumbling back. "Ow! Stop beating your only grandson to death!" The old man snorted coldly. "Fool, my beatings are medicine." The boy immediately turned and bolted away across the rocks. "Huh, I don't want a medicine like that." The old man chased after him, staff raised as the two ran along the riverbank. Later that night, deep in the forest, a small, worn-out hut stood quietly beneath the stars. Inside, the two sat across from each other on the wooden floor, with a single candle burning between them. The old man began explaining calmly. The Heart Sutra visualization was created by the Zen sect's sixth ancestry, the Hu-Neng patriarch. The boy listened carefully. The old man continued. This technique wasn't created for warriors, but for weak monks. The old man sat calmly in the dimly lit hut, the candle between them flickering as he continued his explanation. His eyes were steady as he spoke. The shocking part is that the ordinary monk who practiced the Heart Sutra visualization all his life, he paused slightly, turned out to be incredibly powerful when he accidentally used it for battle. The boy blinked in surprise, clearly confused. That's very odd, becoming so powerful just from reading texts and practicing a breathing technique all your life? The old man said nothing for a moment. Outside, the next day arrived beneath a clear blue sky. The waterfall roared once again as the boy sat beneath it, legs crossed, water crashing down over his body. His breathing slowed as he sank into deep concentration. The old man's words echoed in his mind. The Heart Sutra visualization is a technique that is built upon the foundations of completely emptying your mind. The old man's stern voice continued in memory. That is why warriors are never able to attain it, since their avarice for power is too much. Under the waterfall, the boy kept his eyes closed, letting the water pour endlessly over his body. His breathing remained calm. Then the old man's explanation continued. Since the only thing the monks sought was the absolute truth, their mind was completely empty. His voice grew more intense. That is why they were able to reach great heights despite not trying so hard. Suddenly, a surge of energy erupted from the boy's body. White lightning-like currents exploded outward as his ki expanded violently around him. Water scattered in every direction as the power around him intensified. The old man's final words echoed within his mind. The reason why I made you practice the Heart Sutra visualization from a young age is because I wanted you to attain it before you came to learn of the world. The old man's words echoed inside the boy's mind like a command carved into his soul. You can only attain it if your mind is completely empty. Throw away any worldly thoughts you have. Under the roaring waterfall, the boy sat perfectly still on the stone. Water crashed endlessly over his body, but his breathing remained calm. The river roared, the forest swayed, yet inside his mind there was only silence. Suddenly, a surge of power erupted. Blue lightning-like currents burst from his body, spiraling around him like living energy. The waterfall trembled as the ki expanded outward. From the riverbank, the old man stared in disbelief as the energy spread across the entire waterfall. His eyes widened. That's the triple apex flowers? His voice trembled with shock. The greatest height of power you can reach when you break through the gates of life and death. The old man staggered forward, staring at the boy surrounded by violent ki. So Moon has already... Then another terrifying thought struck him. His eyes widened even further. Wait, could he also attain the 5 ki awakening? At that exact moment, the boy's eyes snapped open. They glowed with an intense red light as raw energy exploded outward. Lightning crackled violently around him. The water beneath him erupted upward as if the river itself was being pushed away. A massive burst of power surged through the waterfall. The old man stood frozen, staring at the unbelievable sight. His entire body trembled with excitement. Has he also unlocked all the thin veins in his body? Then suddenly, the old man threw his head back and burst into wild laughter. Ha 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 ha! Tears streamed down the old man's wrinkled face as he stared toward the waterfall, his beard trembling. His voice was soft, filled with emotion. I have no regrets anymore. Sometime later, the two walked together along a quiet forest path. The old man leaned on his staff as he spoke calmly. I was planning proper training after you gained enlightenment under the waterfall. He paused briefly. But it seems that will no longer be necessary. The boy turned toward him in confusion. Huh? Did I do something wrong? The old man suddenly burst into laughter. What I mean is that there is nothing for me to teach you anymore. The boy blinked in surprise. Huh? Still confused, he asked again. What do you mean? The old man looked at him seriously. I saw you attain the triple apex flowers and the 5 ki awakening earlier at the waterfall. He then asked carefully, What did you feel? Tell me what happened back then. The boy scratched his head, trying to remember. Well, my heart hurt and I felt sick in the beginning, he continued honestly, but at some point it suddenly cleared up and I felt really good. The old man nodded slowly. That means you've unlocked both the gates of life and death, as well as the Ren and Du vessels. The boy stared at him blankly. The old man chuckled. They're difficult to accomplish, even if you train your entire life. The boy's eyes lit up with hope. So it's a good thing, right? The old man smiled proudly. Good doesn't even begin to describe it. He raised his staff slightly as they continued walking. It would be called a miracle by those who cultivate ki. The boy's body trembled with excitement as he walked beside him. Ooh! The next moment marked the beginning of a new chapter. Above the forest path, a hawk soared through the sky as the old master and the boy continued walking beneath the trees. Suddenly, the boy raised his fist excitedly and shouted toward the sky, "Ironblood, come here!" The hawk immediately swooped down, flapping its wings as it descended toward him. The boy grinned brightly as the bird landed on his raised arm. Laughing, he spoke to it. "Ha ha! You've been avoiding me for a while. Are we good now?" The hawk settled calmly on his arm while he turned toward the old man. "Grandfather, it seems like my bloodlust is gone now." The old master nodded, observing him carefully. "You've unlocked the gates of life and death and needle veins," he continued calmly, "so naturally your bloodlust has been taken care of." Then the old man suddenly frowned, stroking his beard. How very strange. The boy tilted his head in confusion while gently petting the hawk. "Huh? What is?" Without warning, the old man smacked the top of his head with his knuckles. "You're as dumb as a rock." The old man stroked his beard thoughtfully while looking at the boy and the hawk. "So how did you manage all that?" The hawk flapped its wings beside them. "Cree! Cree!" Then the story shifted to something deeper, a hidden past. The family's secret. Snow fell heavily across towering mountains as a figure plunged down through the storm. The young archer gripped his bow tightly as wind and snow exploded around him. With explosive force, arrows shot out. They tore through the storm like lightning. Birds scattered through the sky. Pick, pick. Then a powerful bolt of energy erupted toward the mountain peak. Quang! Lightning-like force split the air as the arrow surged upward. The next instant, the arrows struck their targets. Two fish hanging in the icy air were pierced cleanly by the arrows as electricity crackled around them. Far away in the forest, a quiet cabin stood under the dark sky. A calm voice explained the lesson. "You've overcome wind and moving targets, so it looks like you've learned the basics of archery." The boy frowned, clearly annoyed. Basics? Inside the small cabin, the boy sat proudly across from the old man and declared with confidence, "Grandfather, I'm a first-class archer that never misses a shot." He quickly demonstrated with playful flair, shaping his fingers like a bow and aiming forward. "Even if I shoot while using wolf step, I never miss." Then he raised 3 fingers with a serious expression. "Even my multi-shots with 3 arrows don't miss." Before he could boast any further, the old man suddenly smacked him on the head. "Brat, don't get cocky." "It's a fact, so how am I being cocky?" The old man sighed and spoke calmly. "You could say ki-guided arrow is the creme de la creme of archery." The boy blinked in confusion. "What?" He tilted his head while thinking. "I've heard of ki-guided sword, but—" He tried to imagine it, twisting his arm as if mimicking an arrow changing direction. "Shh, shh. I don't get how an arrow could chase after someone like a snake." The old man's eyes sharpened. If swords can be guided by ki, so can arrows. Then he asked a strange question. "Can you hunt without arrows?" The boy immediately panicked. "Huh? That's impossible." The old man's voice turned serious. Formless firing is the peak of archery. The boy stared at him with determination. If that's possible, please show me. The old man slowly raised both hands and shook his head. The apex hunting technique is my limit. Then he revealed something surprising. But there was someone who reached the peak of archery among our ancestors. The boy frowned skeptically to himself. Drawing a bow without arrows will only produce sound with the bowstring. The old man suddenly changed the topic. How old are you now? The boy answered calmly, 17. The old man looked at the boy calmly and said, Since you're able to use wolf step and multi-shot, you're done with apex hunting technique. Beyond their small home, vast mountains stretched into the distance, hidden under drifting fog. Then the old man revealed something important. When the sun is up, head to our family's patriarch village, the Divine River Hidden Village. His voice carried the weight of generations. The secrets to the art of Wu Wei and triple unity sword style left by our 17th ancestor are there. He placed an old book on the floor. This is the ultimate guide to inner key cultivation written by our ancestors. The boy picked up the book carefully. On the cover were the words, Path to Wu Wei. Later, standing on a cliff overlooking a vast lake surrounded by mountains, the boy looked toward the horizon. With determination in his voice, he spoke to the unseen spirits of his lineage. My ancestors, it is I, your descendant, Ulji So Moon. Then he bowed deeply. I intend to fulfill the family's goal of attaining ultimate strength, so please lend me your guidance. Mist rolled through the towering cliffs. Suddenly, electricity! The boy stepped toward the edge of the cliff, staring down at the dizzying height below. Shivering slightly, he muttered, Whoa, this height is giving me shivers. But his hesitation lasted only a moment. Jump! Without looking back, he leaped. Grabbing onto hanging vines, he swung down the sheer cliff face with incredible agility. Wind howled around him as he descended rapidly. Tap! His foot struck the rock wall as he used the momentum to propel himself further down the mountain, disappearing into the thick mist below. Gripping the vines tightly, the boy descended the cliff face with swift, practiced movements. The wind roared past him as his feet tapped against the rock wall, guiding his fall with precise control. Suddenly, his eyes caught something carved into the stone. Ji Wen. Before he could think further, he swung into a hidden opening in the cliff and dropped inside the cave. Drop. His feet touched the ground lightly as dust scattered beneath him. He took a step forward. Step. Then his expression hardened. There's something here. A chilling pressure suddenly surged through the cave. The boy stiffened as a violent aura rushed toward him. Whoa! Bloodlust! The invisible force wrapped around him like living snakes, coiling through the air. He turned sharply, scanning the darkness. Shit, what is this? A wild animal? His eyes sharpened with determination. All right, let's see who wins. He stepped forward, pushing against the swirling pressure. The invisible bloodlust slashed toward him again and again, filling the cave. He gritted his teeth. Gah, that's some incredible bloodlust. The pressure kept intensifying, crushing down on him. Darn it, if I can't beat them in bloodlust, then... Suddenly, heat began to rise from his body. A red aura flared around him as his energy surged outward. As I thought, the bloodlust disappeared with the Heart Sutra visualization. The power flowing through him felt completely different. He clenched his fists, flames of energy swirling around his arms. It really does make a huge difference. Just as he began to push forward, his eyes widened. 11. A blinding golden light burst from deeper within the cave. He raised his arm in shock. Whoa, what is this abundance of ki energy? The overwhelming force slammed into him like a storm. Gah, I won't lose to this. But the pressure was relentless. The energy currents crashed into him from every direction. He struggled desperately. Damn, I can't even take a single step forward. The force finally threw him down to the ground. Breathing heavily, he looked toward the blazing light. Is this the limit of my strength? Then, suddenly, his eyes widened again. That's... The overwhelming pressure finally eased, and the boy stared ahead with wide, trembling eyes, sweat running down his cheek. How? This is ridiculous. In front of him, 3 ancient drawings hung on the cave wall, their worn surfaces glowing faintly through the mist, each one radiating an eerie, powerful aura. He narrowed his eyes, sensing the source of the power. Strange. That key was definitely coming from this drawing. His gaze dropped to the ground where a wooden chest rested quietly beneath the scrolls. He stepped closer. His foot stopped right in front of it. For a moment, he simply stared. Then realization struck him. Is this it? The secrets of the family? He crouched down and opened the chest. Inside, lying neatly within the wooden box, was a sealed bundle. But something else caught his attention. A curved object rested beside it. Curiously, he reached inside and grabbed it. The moment he lifted it, his eyes widened in shock. Whoa, this is heavy. He examined the object in disbelief. It's only about 2 feet long, but seems to weigh at least 100 pounds. Still kneeling beside the open chest, he slowly reached toward the sealed document resting inside. His hand hovered over it. Then finally, he grabbed the envelope. He sat down beside the chest, the cave still filled with drifting mist, and opened the book. Flick. His eyes scanned the first page carefully. I am Lee Jin-hook. I loved the blade more than the bow. He continued reading, curiosity growing. I am already in my 40s, too old to learn the blade. The boy's gaze remained fixed on the text as the words of the unknown master unfolded. As they say, just because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you'll be good at others. Since I was already proficient in archery, I didn't give it up. He turned another page. Flick. The writing grew more intense, almost proud. 20 years after learning the blade, I have finally created the triple unity sword style. The boy leaned closer to the book as he read the bold claim. Though it is only a triple unity sword style, I believe it is the strongest sword style of them all. He blinked, surprised, then muttered aloud, wow, he was one egotistical guy. But the next lines immediately caught his attention. But there is one huge flaw with this sword style. His expression shifted. A flaw. He read on as the image of the swordsman in the text appeared before him. If your inner ki is weak, you will faint from using up all your ki in just a single battle. If your ki is weak, it'd be more difficult to learn it than any ordinary sword style. The swordsman's explanation continued. That is why I have decided to create a cultivation method to attain the ki necessary. The boy stared at the pages silently, realizing that what he held in his hands might be far more valuable than he first thought. The pages continued, revealing the image of the old swordsman sitting cross-legged, his aura flowing calmly around him. Concentrating your breath is the foundation of all ki cultivation methods. The story shifted to the end of his life. Standing at the entrance of a cave, the old master looked out at the setting sun stretching across the mountains. I've got a long way to go, but the sun is already setting. His expression grew tired, almost resigned. I don't have much time left, so why am I so fixated on this? His gaze hardened as he muttered to himself, "Everything turns to void once I die anyway." The old swordsman exhaled slowly. Phew, I'll forget about it all and just wait for death to come. But suddenly, his eyes widened in shock. Whoa! In that moment, something changed inside him. A realization struck like lightning. In that moment, I gave up on everything. I came to a realization. The words grew intense across the page. Wu-wee, following the laws of nature and being released from worldly desires. The concept echoed through the writings. Wu-wee is the path to realization. The final declaration filled the page. I'll leave the name of the Triple Union sword style to my successors. This inner cultivation method will be named the Art of Wu-wee. Back in the cave, the boy stared at the book with wide eyes, stunned by what he had just read. Wow! My ancestor invented the art of Wu-wee in his 70s before he met his fate. His voice filled with excitement. Amazing! He flipped to the next page. Flap. His eyes narrowed immediately. What's this? The handwriting is different. He began reading the new entry carefully. I am Ulji Mugyak. Unlike my grandfather, I do not like the blade. The boy blinked in surprise. Huh? Then is this my 15th ancestor? He scratched his head slightly, confused. Weird. He kept reading, the fog drifting quietly around him. Grandfather told me it was the first since the 17th, but I guess not. The words continued, revealing the pride of the writer. My grandfather prides himself in becoming the best without the wu-wei art or the sword, but through pure archery. He turned another page. Flick. The next lines described the martial path of the ancestor. My martial art was controlling arrows using ki, the ki guidance arrow. The boy's eyes widened slightly. My ki's capacity is already equivalent to 180 years' worth, so I am confident. He leaned forward with curiosity growing. The ancestor continued. Let's compare my martial art and my ancestor's triple unity sword style. The scene in the writings shifted to the image of the ancestor gripping his sword ready to demonstrate the technique. The swordsman moved with powerful precision, swinging his blade through the air. A sharp flash burst from the sword strike. Then, with a roar, he raised the blade high above his head and brought it down with overwhelming force. The ancestor in the record gripped his sword tightly and unleashed the technique. His blade flashed forward with terrifying speed, slicing through the air. A second strike followed instantly, the force spiraling outward like a storm. The ground exploded beneath the impact as the power of the sword style erupted. But the swordsman dropped to one knee, breathing heavily. His eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible! I can't even overcome a single one of my ancestors' triple unity. The realization hit him hard. The writing continued across the page. This sword style has transcended swordsmanship itself. It's divine. His expression turned serious as he acknowledged the truth. This much power in only 3 unities? Incredible. After a moment of silence, he made his decision. I have decided to name this sword style the Peerless Triple Unity Blade. He rested his hand near the sword, flickers of pride in his eyes. It joys me even though I lost, since it's our family's martial art. But then his gaze shifted forward with renewed determination. But since I like the bow more than the blade, I'll make an archery art that will surpass the ki-guided arrow." His ambition grew even greater. "My ancestor has created the ultimate sword style, so I'll create the ultimate archery art." The words on the page continued, revealing the conclusion of the ancestor's efforts. "After much hard work, I have managed to create the ultimate archery art." The next line burst across the page with overwhelming emphasis. The name is Formless Firing. The scene in the writings shifted to the ancestor standing before a massive mountain cliff, bow in hand. The explanation followed. As the name suggests, this archery art is a technique where arrows are unnecessary. The ancestor raised his hand and drew the bowstring, but there was no arrow. Ding! Yet the moment he released the string, invisible power burst forward. A shockwave tore through the air like a fired arrow. The invisible projectile streaked toward the cliff with terrifying speed. The text continued describing the technique. "Like materializing a sword with ki, formless firing is an art that materializes arrows with ki." A blazing beam of condensed energy slammed into the rock face. Lightning-like cracks spread across the cliff. Then, a massive explosion erupted. The mountain shattered as the energy detonated. Rocks burst outward with thunderous force. Dust and debris filled the sky. When the smoke cleared, the ancestor stood calmly with his bow in hand. Back in the cave, the boy stared at the book in shock, a bead of sweat sliding down his face. "Impossible!" His voice trembled slightly. "Grandfather was telling the truth."